Hey there guys, I am here today doing a review for the book Paris Syndrome by Lisa Walker. So Paris Syndrome is an Australian novel about a young girl called Happiness Glass who has just moved to Brisbane, and she dreams of living in Paris with her best friend Rosie once she turns 18. Then Happy wins a French Tourism Board essay competition and she meets an intern called Alex who is a Frenchman, and suddenly her life starts to look up. She's going to be madly in love with this guy. She plans to travel to Paris with him and her friend Rosie and have this amazing Parisian experience. Then she meets Professor Tanaka and her gardener Alex, who is also known as Alex 2 and is a female Alex. Professor Tanaka and Alex 2 recruit Happy to fight against an ailment known as Paris Syndrome, which is a psychological syndrome which affects people who have an idealistic version of Paris. Whilst doing this, Happy suddenly pursues her love of Paris and is more desperate than ever to go, and things get complicated when she then kisses both Alexes. And suddenly she's gone from having two Alexes in her life to none. On top of that, her friend Rosie is not talking to her as much since she has moved to Brisbane, and she suddenly feels very alone and needs to decide what she wants from her life. Now, I'm going to be honest, everyone knows me. I'm not a big romance reader. I didn't expect to really enjoy this book. I really did. It was excellent. I tabbed this book so I could give a detailed review, and I tabbed it in a few sections. I tabbed it as the blue points are cute and romantic, funny moments, and overall moments that I really enjoyed. Green moments are moments that upset me or angered me in terms of writing style or in terms of plot. Orange moments are comments on the writing style. Pink are shocking or important moments to the story, and yellow is all about representation. And I got quite a diverse mix of tabs going on in there, mostly blue and green, because there was a lot of cute romantic moments in this, which I loved, and there was a lot of really shocking, sad, angering moments as well. So to start off with, I want to tell you a bit about these characters. Happiness Glass is one who really grated me from the start. She was a character who was so obsessed with Paris. She didn't care who it affected that she went. She knew she wanted to go. Everything was looking up for her. And that was a really good kind of passion and drive. And I kind of liked it. But over time, it became obvious that Happy was one of those people who had illusions of grandeur. She thought she was much better than anyone else because only she understood Paris. No one understood it better than her. And the trouble with that was, it became very annoying. For me, I found her to be a very unlikable character, and it really stressed me out when I was reading the book because I was so worried that I was going to spend this entire book thinking, I can't stand your main character. What am I going to do? Over time, I will admit my feelings changed. This story allowed for so much development of Happy's character. She went from this character who is so overzealous and idealistic about what Paris is going to be like, and if anyone said anything negative about it, she was jumping on them saying that they were wrong. And it was such a big development from that to the Happy that we got near the end, who became so much more free and happy and just enjoyed life more and was happy for the experiences that she was going to have, as opposed to focusing solely on this one aspect. Now, in terms of the romance, I thought this was really clever. Now, obviously, there is a romance, as I mentioned before, between Happiness and Alex 1 and Alex 2. There are two Alexes, one male, one female. I was so excited to read this, finding out that Happy was bisexual. I found this to be quite interesting. It was a dynamic I'd never actually read about before, and I was glad that this representation was in there. It didn't come across as though she was bisexual when it happened, though. It was a big struggle for me, actually, to read that, because she suddenly fell in love with Alex 1, and she wanted to kiss him, she wanted to sleep with him, she wanted this life. And then when Alex 2, who's the female Alex, kissed her, it was more of the, whoa, what the hell's happening? I liked it, but what the hell's happening? I don't want this. And that's not what I kind of thought this was going to be about. I kind of assumed that Happiness was comfortable with her sexuality. From the way it was written that described that she was going to kiss them both, I assumed it was kind of a comfortable with her sexuality kind of thing. And in the end, it wasn't a case of questioning sexuality. It was just a case of which one do I like the most. And it really normalized sexuality. And I love that because it wasn't all about her discovering herself or finding herself in terms of who she wants as a romantic partner. It was about her finding herself as a person and whatever made her the happiest was what she went with. And that was such a beautiful way to tell that story. And I loved it, and I couldn't complain about any of that. Now, in terms of the main romance of this story, this was something I absolutely loved, because this story is not a typical romance about girl meets boy, girl falls in love with boy, boy's a dick, they don't meet, then eventually they fall in love and happy ever after. This is so much more. There is more than just a typical love story. The main romance in this is about happiness and her love for Paris. And I love that. I really didn't expect it to go that route, and when it did, I was enamored. I couldn't wait to read more about it. Because Paris syndrome, if you don't know, is a real syndrome that affects people who have such a love for Paris, and they build up such an expectation of how beautiful and amazing it's going to be, that when they get there, they're really disappointed. And often it has such a psychological effect on them and brings them into a state of depression or mania. And learning about that, and learning about how people build up expectations of what it's going to be like, and that it'll leave them sorely disappointed. I loved reading about that, knowing that that was the path happiness was going down, and we had to follow her as she learned to fall out of love with Paris. And the story was amazing. It wasn't just a case of saying Paris is awful, Paris is the worst place you could ever go, no one loves Paris, and then her saying, yeah, I don't want to go to Paris anymore. It wasn't about that. It was all about her saying, I really love this place, but I know that it's going to really negatively affect me, and I need to take a step back. I can still love Paris. I can still want to go. I can still be really excited about it. I can still love all things French, but I just need to take a step back and do it at an appropriate pace and an appropriate reaction. And it was about her learning to control that obsession and love for Paris and treat it normally, and knowing it would better her mental health whilst doing that. It was such a good story, and I love that so much. There are so many good points in this book where there is a romance in terms of Paris and a romance in terms of the Alexes, and it was beautiful. And I loved every moment of this story so much. One thing I have to talk about is the level of emotion that this book brings out. I cannot tell you how much I almost cried. Throughout this book, my level of emotion built to the point where at the start I was just like, it's okay, I'm not emotional, I'm alright. To around the middle when I was like, I'm so close to crying, and then at the end when I was just a blubbering mess. Because it just built so well, and I loved how it built those emotions, and I fell in love with it so much over time. It wasn't an instant love thing, and I grew with it over time, and I couldn't hold myself together at the end. I cried so much. Cried through cute things, cried through sad things. It was just, it was an emotional roller coaster. And there were moments in this book that shook me to the core because I just didn't expect it to happen. I don't even know how to explain how much I really enjoyed this story. It was a 4-star book. I loved it so much. For a romance, which I really didn't expect, I can't recommend it enough. This book comes out on the 1st of October, so when it does, make sure you get it. I will leave the link so you can pre-order it down below. And aside from that, I don't think I can really say anything else. This is a great book. I could not recommend it enough, and I really suggest that you go and pre-order it. So, that is all from me. Thank you so much for watching. I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And leave a comment down below if you think that this is a book you fancy. Alright guys, I will see you guys later. Bye!